Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a fascinating piece of history, the fourth newsletter from CROSS, the Confidential Reporting System on Structural Safety, published way back in November 2006 in the UK.
And you know what's really cool? Thanks to some modern tech, these vital lessons are being brought back to life. A structural engineer is actually using AI to convert these old archives into speech, making decades of crucial lessons accessible to a whole new generation. So let's dive in and see what dangers they uncovered.
So when you think about a dangerous building site, what comes to mind? Probably heavy machinery, right? Or maybe working way up high. But as this newsletter reveals, some of the biggest risks come from things we see every single day and barely even notice.
All right, let's start with a report from a local authority structural engineer who raised an alarm about something we all walk past without a second thought: scaffolded.
So this engineer, he's looking at the rule book, and he's just amazed. He realized that the risk of a car or a truck just slamming into a scaffold, something that could cause a total collapse, was barely even mentioned in the official industry standards.
I mean, look at this. The engineer pointed out that contractors would pretty much ignore the hazard unless you could point to a specific rule that said they had to do something. But the old standard? Nothing. The new one? Still nothing. Highway codes? Nope. HSE guidance? It just wasn't there. A massive, dangerous gap.
So, totally frustrated, his team had to take matters into their own hands. They started writing their own risk assessments for each site and demanding real physical barriers because the official rulebooks were giving them absolutely zero help. So what did the experts at CROSS think about this? Well, this report definitely got their attention. This wasn't just some minor complaint. The commentary from the experts shows just how high the stakes really were.
They immediately pointed to a recent, horrible tragedy in Milton Keynes. A massive 14-story scaffold had collapsed, and tragically, someone died. And while the exact cause wasn't public yet, it was a brutal reminder of the real-world cost of these gaps. It actually forced the health and safety executive to issue an alert that finally mentioned the risk of a vehicle hitting the scaffolding.
And the danger of these overlooked temporary structures doesn't stop with scaffolding. Nope. The newsletter also flagged another growing concern. Builders were using masonry support props in a really dangerous way.
Okay, so what was happening? Multiple reports were coming in about builders using these modified dead shore props. Basically, they were never designed for these kinds of heavy loads, and the way they were being set up, with these off-center head plates, well, it created these dangerous forces that could cause the prop to literally just skid out from underneath the wall. A total disaster waiting to happen.
And this just lays it out perfectly, right? The right way versus the wrong way. On one hand, you follow the rules, get it checked by someone who knows what they're doing. On the other, you've got this super common but incredibly dangerous shortcut, where even an accidental knock could bring the whole thing down.
And listen, this wasn't just theory. Another reporter sent in a case where these props were visibly bending under the load. You could actually see them curving. The wall above started to sink, causing major damage to the building, and you guessed it, a huge claim against the builder.
Okay, so we've looked at dangers you can see. Now let's shift gears to a flaw it's completely invisible until it is way, way too late.
The newsletter went into two really alarming cases of something called liquid metal-assisted cracking. Sounds complicated, but here's the gist. It can happen during hot dip galvanizing, which is a process meant to protect steel from rust. But under the wrong conditions, the molten zinc can actually attack the steel, making it super brittle.
So case number one, a huge brand new steel girder gets sent for galvanizing, but when it comes back, it's completely twisted and just full of these brittle cracks, some in steel that was 20 millimeters thick. The damage was so bad, there was basically no way to repair it.
The second case, honestly, this one's even scarier. Steel connectors for a massive timber roof system were galvanized. The problem was, the cracks that formed were totally hidden by the shiny new zinc coating. They were only spotted by pure luck while the roof was being put up. The whole thing had to be dismantled immediately. Imagine if they hadn't caught that.
So here's the key takeaway. The experts said that, yeah, this kind of cracking is rare, but it happens when the proper design and fabrication rules aren't followed. This wasn't just about some weird metal flaw. It was a failure to communicate. The risks were known, but that critical information just wasn't getting to the people who are actually designing and building these things.
So, we've got collapsing scaffolds, bending props, invisible cracks. These reports aren't just stories, right?
they're data points, and when you put them all together in a system like Cross, they create this incredibly powerful tool for safety.
And that's really the whole point of Cross. By collecting these confidential reports on concerns, on near misses, on lessons learned, they can spot these dangerous patterns that no single engineer, working on their own, would ever see. It's all about turning individual experience into collective wisdom.
And the benefits are just crystal clear. You get better quality construction, fewer injuries, fewer deaths, and at the end of the day, it actually costs less for everyone. It's a system that helps everyone learn from mistakes without having to make them all themselves.
And you know, these reports we've just talked about from 2006, they didn't just sit in a drawer. They were sent directly to the health and safety executive, and they actually informed new recommendations. It just proves that one person speaking up about a concern can spark real, life-saving change for an entire industry.
It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other hidden dangers, not just in construction, but in our whole world, could be prevented if we just had a better system for sharing what we know? The simple act of sharing knowledge is one of the most powerful tools we have. Thanks for joining this explainer.